Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank, banking with greater momentum. And by Stewart & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.
From Mansurs On The Boulevard, we're out to lunch with Stephanie Riegel. Stephanie Riegel is a broadcaster and editor of Baton Rouge Business Report. It's business, Baton Rouge style.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Riegel. Welcome to Out to Lunch. As our economy has become more specialized, so have the consultants who come into our companies and help us figure out how to do our jobs better. And in today's digital economy, consulting firms don't have to rely on local or regional clients to pay the bills. Baton Rouge consulting firms have clients that take them all over the country. Robert Munson is carving a unique niche in the field of sports consulting. In mid-2016, Robert partnered with Washington D.C. based Sanderson Strategies Group to create a new sports division based right here in Baton Rouge. The firm counts among its clients the Commissioner's Office for Major League Baseball and has worked with 22 of the 30 Major League Baseball teams in the country. SSG helps them by providing services like brand and reputation positioning, crisis management communications, and media relations. Robert also has extensive experience in business and political consulting as well. Robert, love what your firm is bringing to the market. We look forward to hearing about it in a few minutes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Devin Lemoine is a consultant whose firm Success Labs focuses on management consulting and offers companies guidance and training on leadership development, executive coaching, organizational development, and workforce planning and succession. Devin is president and owner of the 20-year-old firm, which has worked with hundreds of companies across the country. Last year, Success Labs made LSU's 100 list of fastest growing companies throughout the world. Those are companies, of course, owned by LSU graduates, which Devin is. Devin, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Well, Robert, let's start with you and talk about sports consulting. No question, there's a market for it out there and big money too, but how does a Baton Rouge firm get noticed when, no question, there are companies all over the country in big markets doing this?
There are definitely companies all over the country doing this in bigger markets, but I think the market here, particularly in the South, is unique. We have across Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, some of the biggest sports markets in the world, some of the biggest teams in the world, some of the biggest leagues in the world. And probably, I think, the biggest fans of sports in the world are here, but also athletes. We produce more professional athletes here per capita than really anywhere else in the world. So
that is an amazing statistic. I've heard you quote that before. That is a proven fact.
You're more likely to be a professional athlete if you're from the state of Louisiana than from any other state in the country.
I love that.
Which is just a remarkable stat. I have no idea why that is. And we do work with individual athletes. We prefer to work with teams and leagues and conferences as well, and there's plenty of that to go around as well.
And you do things like brand and reputation management and media relations. It's like a practical level. How does that work? If you're working for the MLB commissioner's office or for an MLB team.
Well, there is no practical level to this particular vocation. It's a nuanced job. Every client presents some unique challenges and opportunities. I think the best way to put it would be that we work on positioning our clients. Sometimes that means taking advantage of opportunities that come around in a year or so. Sometimes that means positioning them and protecting them from exposure and risk that can come. So, whether it's a sports client or a political client, they are all exposed, generally speaking, to the public in one form or another. It might be directly, it might be through the media, it may be through a regulatory environment with the government. But one way or the other, they have some exposure that they can either take advantage of to further their brand and their careers, or there's potential for risk as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, Devin, Success Labs works with a variety of clients, not sports, but small companies, big companies, medium size. What is your unique niche?
It's really going in and understanding what's going on with an organization from the people strategy standpoint. So I would say that everything we do is really about helping that company be more effective, and that's the individual leaders and emerging leaders, the teams, and the organization as a whole. So when we go in, we're really trying to help them with their people strategy up against their business strategy, and in this kind of environment with such, millennials coming in who are not really tethered to long-term employment. Companies are really having to say, what really is our relationship with our employees? It's changed a lot. And how do we look at our risk and our needs for what we're trying to do as an organization and match the solutions to that? And so in that case, we're also working around the nuance, those unique companies, their unique challenges, where they're at organizationally, what they're trying to do, and then what do we have to do on the people side to make sure that they can be successful.
When you go in, how much time do you spend with a company before you come up with the game plan that you're going to present to them?
Well, a lot of time when someone calls you, they think they want something. And one of my first questions is, tell me the impetus for this call. What made you pick up the phone and call me? Because once they tell me why they are actually calling me, sometimes the thing that they think they're asking for is not necessarily the thing that they need.
Sure.
And so a lot of times in those first phone calls, I'm trying to understand what's really going on. What made you pick up the phone? That tells me a lot about what's going on. And many times what we end up doing is different than the thing that they called for. And I'm really focused on trying to make sure they get the right things, not just that they get what they thought they needed. And there's always that impetus. There's that reason why they call you. It's a problem, it's a challenge, something just happened, and usually behind that is a deeper set of needs.
Now, how does a consultant know how to do this?
I don't know that anyone knows how to be a consultant. I certainly kind of worked my way into this from experience. I'm going on probably about 18 years now in one form or another as a consultant and a strategist. And I do think experience is just an absolute key part of this business. It's really hard to give good advice if you don't have experience with bad advice as well. So over the years, you kind of garner a lot of that. And the more times you're in a crisis situation, for instance, the better you're going to be at dealing with it. Usually people face a crisis for the first time. They have no idea what to do, and they call people like me to help them do that. Well, I've been through 5,000 of them. Yeah. So experience definitely helps a lot.
And you came up in the political arena,
Mm-hmm.
and your dad was in politics, and then you've worked with Len Sanderson, who's a great political strategist in Washington. So y'all started there and then migrated into the sports business because you saw the niche?
Well, yes, I started out in campaign politics, moved on to representing primarily companies and organizations that are in a regulatory environment, either from the state or the federal government. And so I do a lot of work in private companies as well as government agencies and those who are elected to office. And sports is another part of my business. I haven't transitioned to it so much as expanded into it.
Okay.
And the similarities between the two are much more than the differences. These are both very high public, high profile industries. They're probably the only two industries I can think of that are covered 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's something we all talk about all the time, sports and politics.
Sure.
So they're unique in and of themselves, but have a lot in common.
Interesting. Devin, what about you? How did you know how to be a consultant? And your background was in what?
My background is really mass comm, marketing, economics. I really kind of got into this a little bit sideways after I'd stayed home for a few years with my triplets, I know, as we've talked about before. And the business changed and morphed over time. As Robert was talking, I was thinking about how, what do you really bring as a consultant? I think a lot of times as a consultant, you're bringing perspective and good critical thinking skills and a base of sort of knowledge about generally what the best practices are, but being able to help apply those in really meaningful ways with clients. And so I think that's where the perspective and the good critical thinking skills are. As Robert said, every organization is a little bit different, even among teams, with the cultures and what their strategies are and what they're trying to do. And so I think most good consultants are able to use that base of really strong best practices and know what works but then to be able to apply it really quickly and inspire confidence in those people, because honestly, they've got to be able, they've got to trust that you're going to lead them and give them great advice and lead them in the right direction. And I don't know,
No,
Robert, you can say whether you think that
that's huge. I mean, if I sit at a table and people don't think I'm coming to them in a position of authority and with confidence, they're not going to keep me around. I mean, I've got to be able to instill some confidence in them, and that may come from talking about some experiences. It may come in my tone of voice. It may come in my mannerisms. It may come in, quick fire questions, and I've got every answer. Or I just say, you know what, I don't know. I don't know what the situation might be at the time, but you have to instill confidence, otherwise a client will never walk with you.
It's also, and I think that other thing, Robert, and you alluded to it, and that is they have to believe, and I think good consultants, that you really want to help them. I got a call yesterday, and there was this guy, and he said, thank you for calling me back. I have an investor. I need to do this business plan. I need it by tomorrow. He told me all these other things, and I said, okay, slow down. And I was like, you could go throw some money at somebody, but here's what I do. Look, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to send you this, this, and this. And, it was interesting because he said, I already want to work with you because you didn't just try, I don't know if I'll ever hear from this guy again, but I wanted to help him. And I really,
and you were able to reach him.
I'm in. Like, as soon as I start talking to somebody about something, I'm in, and I really care about that working out. Sometimes you get the business, sometimes you don't. But
I can tell you, my wife has worked with Devin. She's a rock star, and the folks that she works with are loyal to her and she to them, and that is absolutely crucial that they believe that you want the best for them. And a lot of that comes with building that relationship over time. It's hard for that to be immediate. But I've had very similar situations too, where you have people come to you and they want help. And I said no before because I didn't think it was the best fit for them. I didn't think I could help them in the way that they needed help. And that comes around too, that comes back as well. But you definitely have to want to help these clients.
Of course, they go with you on faith. At the end of the day, what are your deliverables? I mean, what kind of metrics are there to prove that you did help them? And what happens if they say that you didn't? Or maybe that's never happened to y'all.
It depends. If it's, campaign politics was always fun because at the end of the day, you knew for sure. You either won or you lost, and I always loved that. I hated the losing, but I obviously loved the winning. And that's a sure thing. One way or the other. The numbers don't lie.
Sure.
There's no question that it can be difficult to measure with some clients because the product itself is maybe more nebulous, like a crisis management situation. I always tell people this is not, I'm not going to make this crisis disappear. I'm not a magician. It exists. We're going to manage it. We're going to get you through it. We're going to get you out of it. We're going to get you working again. And so at the end of that, is it difficult to measure? Sure it is. But the client knows. The client always knows. They know if you helped them through or if you did not.
They can tell.
I say a lot, and Robert just said magician. I'll say a lot. Look, this isn't magic, I would say one thing that I think we do well is that we are the consulting that I do is considered soft, right? I mean, I'm working on leadership development and developing processes and systems to grow people on around leadership competencies, and that stuff is very hard to measure. One of the things that we do is we're very deliverable based in everything we do, and so people call and say, well, can you do team building? Yes, I can, but I can promise you it's not going to be, soft fuzzy. We're going to have a deliverable at the end of that. We're going to have a plan for this team to be better. So we're going to have some fun, but we're also going to kind of have this plan for things that we're going to be doing as a team to get better and stronger. And the same thing with our coaching. We have a very structured approach. And so everything is very, and we do a lot of assessment before, during, after. So one of the things we say a lot around the office is we try to make the soft stuff hard stuff, the hard stuff, because if it's just soft, it is hard, and you don't look at it in a way that's you can capture and manage and track it. It is hard to tell.
Do you use like proprietary systems that you have developed for instance, the assessments or the training or the after the follow-up, or do you buy software from someone that does management consulting?
And part of it is
both.
Both. We make sure that we produce something at the end of almost everything we do, that there is something there in writing. But, I have Success Labs, but I have a tech company too. And so we have an application that captures for small and mid-sized businesses that captures and manages the leadership, the It can do 360 assessment, it can do succession planning, it can do development planning, and you can interact with it and show progress and actually see all those things. So that's something we'll be focused on trying to take to market actually this year. It's already in some companies, but we'll actually be trying to blow it out.
Oh,
so.
well, we'll want to follow up on that. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Stephanie Riegel. We're talking to Devin Lemoine of Success Labs and Robert Munson of SSG. Robert, do you get down to that level of specificity, or are you looking at more branding, imaging? How to
No,
help a
we
team
can get pretty
position
darn
itself?
specific.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I do with new clients, whether it's in business or politics or sports, doesn't really matter, is an audit of sort of everything that they do and don't do. And over the course of usually a month or two, I'll develop some very, very specific recommendations for my clients. There's an overlying strategy with it all. I mean, that's ultimately what I get paid for, is to develop a strategy for a client to follow. But everything has to fall under the umbrella of that strategy. And there are very specific things. They could be personnel recommendations. They could be software recommendations. Right now we're working with a client where we're talking about improving their storytelling. So there's some very specific things that are coming out of that. In a couple of weeks, I'll be at spring training in Florida talking to one of the Major League Baseball teams about the dangers of 2017. 2017 is dramatically different than 2016 from a public relations standpoint. The things you can and can't say are very different than they were even just 3 months ago.
And you're talking to the actual players about this,
Yeah.
or the managers or the owners?
The
or you're going
players.
to meet with the guys?
We're going to meet with the guys. Yeah, we'll be in the locker room talking with the guys, and it's something we did last year with some teams. We'll do this year with some teams, and that's obviously a specific deliverable. That's something that management wanted us to do.
What can't you say in 2017?
I was
That was
about
the
that.
next
This sounds
question.
fascinating because I would imagine, yes, you have to be much more careful.
You have to be careful. We're very careful to never tell a client you can't say something, and that's from players to CEOs. That's not our business. My job is not to tell you what you can and cannot say. My job is, however, to say, look, if you do say this, these are the potential ramifications of it, or here is a manner in which you could position yourself or say it better to either reduce your risk or possibly give yourself, there's a big difference between opinion and conviction.
Yeah.
And so I try to really communicate with my clients that if you're going to say something in this realm that's potentially controversial, make sure there's conviction behind it, that it's not just an opinion. If there was ever a time to wing it, 2017 is not that time.
And we're talking political topics mostly, and things like
social
standing up at
activism,
the-
politics, all of that. I mean, we can all kind of go through our head and think of, there's if I mentioned a wall right now, it has very different ramifications today than if you and I had been talking a year ago.
Yes.
And so you just have to be aware of it, and a lot of it is just making clients more aware of what's going out there. But I would never tell somebody what to say. That's not my job.
And I suppose with social media and athletes in particular, not to be pejorative, but I mean athletes,
Again,
young and impetuous.
Again,
and
don't
maybe
wing
not
it. Yeah, don't
Right?
wing it. What you think is funny at 3 a.m. isn't necessarily so funny when you walk in the door at 9 a.m. One recommendation for that area is have someone else always look at it before you send something, before you hit post. So there are very specific ways you can protect yourself. But yes.
Robert, we've talked before about, growing a sports industry in the Baton Rouge area. And like you said, we have a lot of the natural resources or the talent base and certainly the fan base. Do we have the other pieces of the puzzle that we need to really grow a sports industry here outside of just having a good college football team and a so-so NFL team down the road?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of pieces here, like you said, and some of them are obvious: the athletes, the teams, the fandom, all of that. The biggest thing, I don't think it's any different than any other industry, is talent. Do we have the talent here to make it happen, or do we don't? And sometimes
You're not
we
talking
do.
athletic talent, but you're
No,
talking the
intellectual
business
talent, creative talent, the business talent to do this. LSU is definitely a wealth of talent, but we know a lot of folks, and Devin, I'm sure you work with clients all the time, you have talent and resources are leaving a lot. And it would certainly help to be able to hold on to more of it.
No question. As consultants, I'm sure y'all are on the road a lot. Consultants are. That's certainly the reputation. What kind of reputation does Baton Rouge have when you're out there meeting in other places? Or does it even factor into the discussion? Do people look a little sideways at you because you're from South Louisiana, or does it not matter?
Boy, I don't really know that there's a lot of talk about it. And people know about the food. in some ways there's that, that phenomena where, when you're local, they actually don't know if, don't necessarily trust that you're that good. Maybe we go outside. And so when we're other places, I think that we're the external consultant coming in from another state, right?
Right.
And then
The outside expert.
and so we've always, and truthfully, a lot of our business is in the South, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and then we've got some clients in other states, mainly a lot through our clients here who recommend us or have other locations, and then we do a little work in Canada for some of our clients. So that's how I would answer that, is to say that it's probably tougher being here sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If I'm working in state, there's certainly areas of the state. If I say I'm from Baton Rouge, they look at me like I'm up to something. I don't know what that is, but I clearly must be up to something if I'm from Baton Rouge. If I'm working out of state, people want to know about the food. How far is it from New Orleans? The standard stuff. But I don't necessarily, football. I don't necessarily see it as having ever held me back. I haven't lived here all my life. I've lived elsewhere. I think that always helps. But yeah, it's not been much of an issue for me.
Devin, what about being a woman-owned firm, a female consultant? I know most of the employees in your shop are women, not exclusively. Does that work to your advantage as a consultant? Somebody who maybe is, does a lot of people and nuanced communication, as we talked about earlier, or does it factor against you? I know you do work in industrial plants along the river. When you go in there,
I think, every firm and every person, every organization has different advantages and disadvantages. I always say maybe some of our biggest advantages are the fact that, and you talked about the petrochem and the manufacturing. I come from we have a lot of first generation college grads or second generation college grads, a lot of us from, blue collar working class families, and so our dads, worked shift work. When I go in a plant, my dad worked shift work for 40 years, and I know what that's like. And we talked about things that were happening in the plant around the table, and so a lot of my team, it's their dads were electricians and military and things like that. So I think more than anything, people know good consultants, male or female. I would hope that didn't hurt and help, but I think it's broader than that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is holding Baton Rouge back, and what do we need to have more of in this market to make it easier and better for you all to do your jobs and to grow the economy and make it healthier in general?
I'm often surprised by the lack of confidence people have in Baton Rouge who live here. And if you talk about developing a new industry or even just a new business, people will often look at you and say, here? Why would you do it here? Why not elsewhere? As if there's some magic potion to
elsewhere,
some other city.
Right.
So for me, I come across that a lot, and I think there's a confidence issue.
As a consultant, I wonder how do we overcome our inferiority complex?
Well, doing it helps.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, building new industries, the work that Devin and Success Labs are doing with all of their clients. Hopefully, the work I'm doing with my clients. A lot of what we do is building, creating and building these companies and individuals to do bigger and better things.
What do you think, Devin?
To me, there's so much good here and so many just resources. I mean, we talked about, we've got oil and gas, we've got sports, we've got great art. Yesterday, Jason Anderson of the Baton Rouge Gallery was talking about the arts community, and there's lots of cool things. To me, it just seems like it's hard for it all to be integrated and kind of come together fully. It's like it's there, but we can't quite get it to all fit together and connect the dots. And so I think we just sort of have kind of a failure to connect it all up. And then some of the other things don't help, like our challenges with education and things like that. And of course, with the resources that we had over the years, you wonder, why don't we have the best education? Why don't we have those things? So just bringing it all together, because we have so many good things and we have so many startups and new companies. I mean, we're really heavy on entrepreneurs, and so I think we're getting there, and we're so close to New Orleans, and I think sometimes we get overshadowed by everybody knowing New Orleans. But there's there have always been interesting things going on here. I think that continues to be the case. I agree with Robert. We probably have a little bit of an inferiority complex. But everything's here. It's really just, to me, how do we continue to integrate all those things and get kind of a broader story, right? A better, a broader story, one that really is, authentic. And that's what I think we struggle with how to bring all that together to really have an authentic story or voice around what Baton Rouge is and who Baton Rouge is.
Where do you want to be in 5 years with respect to your business?
Where do I want to be in 5 years? I think with respect to my business and politics and business, I'm on a pretty good track with where we want to head. I certainly would like to see the sports business expand. One of the things that we're hoping that we can find, and as Baton Rouge is a central location, is more of a foothold across the South. For whatever reason, most people who do this line of work are in New York, LA, D.C. And so we're one of the very few who are really investing time and resources into this area, and we'd love to use Baton Rouge as kind of a launching pad for that.
What about y'all, Devin?
The next few years will be a push around, I think, 2 industries that we've already got a foothold in and will continue to, and those things are manufacturing, petrochem, and healthcare, which we're already in, but wanting to build on that. That's not going away, and they're a little behind a lot of the industries related to leader development and bench strength, so we'll hopefully take advantage of that.
Well, Devin Lemoine and Robert Munson, you both bring so much insight and experience to the market. It's encouraging to see firms like yours here in Baton Rouge, so good luck with your continued growth and with those plans, and thanks for joining me today on Out to Lunch.
Thanks, Stephanie.
My
Thanks,
guests
Robert.
today on Out to Lunch have been Robert Munson of SSG and Devin Lemoine of Success Labs. You can find out more about SSG and Success Labs by following the links on our website. It's batonrouge.la and wrkf.org. Today's show was recorded live over lunch at Mansurs on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Mansurs is open for lunch daily from 11 to 2, for dinner nightly, and for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle. Our associate producer is Peter Raschuti, and our Baton Rouge business consultants are Charlie D'Agostino and Ann Edelman. You can see photos from this show on itsbatonrouge.la and on our Facebook page. These photos are taken by Ken Stewart. All the music on Out to Lunch is composed and performed by Mitchell Foreman. You can find more of Mitchell's music wherever great jazz is streamed or sold and at mitchellforeman.com. You can get this show as a podcast, you can listen to past shows, and you can keep up with us on all kinds of social media by going to our websites. It's batonrouge.la and wrkf.org. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for its batonrouge.la and WRKF 89.3 FM. I'm Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Mansurs for more business Baton Rouge style on Out to Lunch.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank, banking with greater momentum. And by Stewart & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.